Good morning. We all remember going to the library as a kid, whether that be with our parents on the weekend or with our classmates during the school day. When we would go in, we'd sit on the carpet and we'd listen to stories being read to us, and then we'd get to go pick out our own. When you would leave the building, you would see kids surrounded in your surroundings with books in front of their faces like this, fully immersed reading. This is our traditional printed handheld copy of a book. But now picture this. Instead of this copy students would be reading, they'd be reading this off of an iPad or a digital device such as a laptop or phone. That's an ebook, which is the same copy of a book printed but digitally. This is why it's so important that our libraries stick with traditional printed copies of books instead of switching to ebooks. Reading printed is overall better for your cognitive health and reading comprehension, as well as the fact that reading digital ebooks can have some poor implications on your long-term health. And lastly, library buildings offer much value to the community, more than just a book inventories and resources. So reading printed books is way better for your cognitive health than digitally. Lauren Trackman, who studies reading comprehension at the University of Maryland, conducted a study where she had the same college students read the same article twice. The only difference was that one article was read on a printed piece of paper and the other was read digitally on a laptop. Her study revealed that the comprehension was significantly better with students reading printed. Constant exposure to fast-paced media trains the brain to process information more rapidly and less thoroughly. This is an issue that's become more prevalent as our society continues to stay attached to technology and social media with online news sources. Anne Morgan, a literacy professor at the University of Strathclyde in Norway, states that when you read, you sense with your fingers a pile of growing pages on the left and shrinking on the right. This cognitive process is very important to your reading comprehension and is only present when you're reading traditional books. Versus when you're reading digitally, you're swiping page to page, so you're losing the important information in your place much faster. Tufts University neuroscientist Marianne Wolf worries that individuals are increasingly finding it difficult to sit down and immerse themselves in a novel due to the fixation on technology. She believes that there is a physicality to reading, and we move forward with too little reflection when reading digitally. Similarly to my previous point, this is something that's becoming increasingly more common the more that we rely on technology as our primary reading source. It's much easier when we're sitting in front of a screen to scroll and swipe through things and scan the text versus when it's in our hands, we're more likely to sit down and fully process what we're reading. Another main downside of ebooks is that they can be very harmful to your long-term physical and mental health. Dr. Margaret Murga, a reading specialist from Australia, argues that artificial light exposure from light-emitting e-readers may interfere with users' ability to sleep, ultimately leading to adverse impacts on health. Regardless of what activity you're engaging in digitally, you are at more of a risk for vision problems, mental disorders, and behavioral issues. Scientists and medical professionals have been urging us for years to reduce our screen time because of those poor results. Now, regardless of the fact that it may be productive reading digitally, it is contributing to that increase of daily screen time, which results in those poor health factors long term. And lastly, libraries offer much more than just books and inventory. They serve as a public meeting space at the heart of communities that are valued by many neighborhoods and people. They offer free resources such as Wi-Fi and access to stable technology that are very useful in people's daily lives that we would lose if we were switching from printed copies to ebooks, since you would simply be going online instead of in person. To sum this up, neuroscientist Lauren Trackman and reading specialist believe that reading printed books offer many more cognitive benefits than reading digitally because we have a habit of scanning and scrolling, whereas when the book is in our fingertips, we are more immersed and focused on the information in the book. Also, according to Margaret Murga, who's a reading specialist from Australia, reading ebooks can have negative impacts on physical and mental health due to the increase of screen exposure and technology. And lastly, libraries are very important to many people in the community for more outside of just books and resources. For many people, including myself, going to the library is an activity in a social space that can't be experienced the same if it was to be switched all digitally. It's something that's very valued by many people and is something that I would like to continue to occur. We all have many memories tied to books just like this. I remember being read Green Eggs and Ham every night before bed, and it does hurt me to think about the fact that my kids may be being read to at night by an iPad or a digital device. This is why it's so important that we keep our libraries offering traditional printed books instead of digital ebooks. Thank you.